As the story grows, I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Alexandra Norton from Echoes to the podcast. The new Echoes record, Quiet in Your Service, is out today. Alexandra talks about her childhood spent in the woods and how that's a defining aesthetic to her music, a new writing approach for this album, how she hopes people experience her music, and more. Quiet in Your Service is a phenomenal record, and I hope you give it a spin today. You won't regret it. I have to give a big shout out to my wife, Amanda, for stepping in and recording the intros for the previous 2 episodes of the podcast while my voice recovered. Those episodes would not have aired without her, so thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in our show notes for the podcast mailing list on Substack, our community on Discord, or you can support the show financially and get early access to every episode on Patreon. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you subscribed to the podcast feed on your podcast platform of choice. Enjoy today's conversation with Alexandra Norton from Echoes. You're out in Portland?
I am actually in LA right now, but I will be in Portland. I go between both places.
Okay. Fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Fun. But you were originally from Portland, right?
From around that area, yes.
Okay, roughly.
Yeah. A small town that no one knows of called Battleground. So I just say Portland because I feel like that's easier.
Yeah. You talk to enough people and you like, there are major hubs where people can recognize, and like some people want to claim their like little city as like a badge of honor or whatever, but most people are like, nobody knows where the fuck that is. So like Portland.
Yeah. So anytime I'd be like, yeah, I'm from Battleground, they'd be like, huh? So Portland has become the thing. But yeah, I mean, Battleground's sick if you like farms.
some people that's their deal, right? Like
I love it because I love the farm life in the woods. But yeah, so that's where I'm from.
Nice. What was growing up like?
Oh my God, just always in the woods and entertaining myself, building forts and painting outside. It was really cool. Like I would not trade it for anything. Growing up in the woods was so cool. And like all the schools that I went to were in the woods. So like you'd go outside for recess and you're in the woods. It was really cool.
That's fun. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I grew up in the suburbs of DC, so like I kind of had the best of both worlds because we were far enough out where it's like we lived on a lot of land. So yeah, you could just go off into the woods and like build forts and like play in the creek and stuff. But then like you could go to the city and have monuments and like, all the shit you can get in trouble in the city, right? Like,
yeah, when I was younger, I was always I loved it, but I was sad. I was like, I want to be able to be in the city with my friends. And, you know, everyone lived so far that like nobody would want to come over. So I was just like, always in the woods, like alone. So, which probably like, you know, helped me become who I am now. But now looking back, I'm like, no, I had a sick childhood where I was sick as fuck. So yeah, at the time I was like, I just want to be around people, but no.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say like you spent all this time alone in the woods, having listened to the new album a bunch, and like how much that aesthetic feels in balance with what you do.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, and like I'm probably gonna get people are gonna be like, that makes sense when I say this, but I'm an only child, so I was an only child in the woods, like left to my own devices to entertain myself. I mean, my parents would like craft with me and stuff, but like for the most part, I was like brooding like outside, like, writing a poem or something. And so, but I feel like that checks out. I'm like, wow, that is who I am.
Yeah. See, I have 7 siblings, so going alone was escapism. And
see, I have a ton of cousins, so I did get to have the experience on like summers and like holidays, but like for the most part, like I was just always alone. So it was fun.
At what point in your life does kind of music enter the picture? And
Yeah. So I told everybody when I was 5 that I was going to grow up and be a singer. I was just like, I'm going to grow up and become a singer. And I remember people were, like supportive, but they were like, yeah, but what if that doesn't happen? And I was like, it will. Like, I look back on that and I'm like, fuck yeah, I guess I knew who I was when I was 5, apparently. So, and I started songwriting when I was 9. I played in some bands in high school, and then Echoes became a thing when I was 19. So music has always been such a huge part of my life. And, I'm super grateful for it. And it's interesting because I didn't grow up in like a musical family. So I guess I just one day was like, I'm going to be a singer.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this reality of, I think, what people think being a singer or a musician is and looks like. And it's like, they're just like, you're not going to be, Madonna on TV. And it's like, the reality of what it means to be like a professional singer or to do that as a job is so different. Like,
I know, is so not like that at all. And it's like, people always, I guess, as I started, doing music professionally, people would ask questions like, well, were you on The Voice, or like, are you on the radio? Which is, it like definitely makes sense that people that are not in music would ask that, because that's what they, they know music to be. So it's been very interesting. And I guess when I was younger, like I didn't really know what it was going to look like. The only thing that I knew is that I just feel better when I make music, and that I was going to find a way to turn that into my job. Yeah.
Did you pick up an instrument, piano, guitar along the way? Were you in like chorus? Or?
I wasn't. I wish that I was in choir. I was too shy, and now I'm like, fuck, that would have been cool. But I had vocal lessons, and then I play a little bit of guitar. I want to get better at it, but that's how I started writing songs, was on guitar and singing. And then I joined like little bands in high school and would write with them, and it was super fun. And then I always had this like deep yearning in my soul that like, this is what I needed to do. And so I just kind of followed that passion. And I think when you believe something hard enough, you consciously work within that mindset, and it takes you closer to where you want to be. So I've always kind of had this, like, I don't know if it's delusion or just like a lot of self-belief, but I've just always been like, no, I'm going to do this. So yeah.
Yeah. Was there a genre you had in mind that you wanted to kind of perform as, or was it just like, I want to sing, it doesn't matter? I feel like it's funny because I played in like an indie acoustic band. Was the first band I played in high school. And then I was doing some guest vocals for like my friend's metal band. And then I got in. So I've always been in that, like, I've always loved that because that's always what I was listening to. And then, electronic music kind of had a huge moment around 2013. And I was like, I think I would have so much fun singing over this. And kind of what Echoes, started off as, and had a lot of elements still, I think, of rock, intertwined within it. And we had like a very cinematic sound. And then as time went on, it's evolved into what it is now. So I've always, it's funny because like I said, when I started, I was doing a lot of stuff kind of closer to what I'm doing now. None of that's released though. So maybe one day I'll put that out. Cause I listened back to the stuff I made like before Echoes, and it kind of is more in line with what I'm doing now. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the formation of Echoes and the genesis of this project.
Yeah. So there's such an interesting story. So I was 19 and I was just tweeting out like, I'm a singer, I want to sing on your guys' songs, which I know is like cringe. Like I think about how cringe that is. But again, I had that drive in me where I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do this. And so I started doing guest vocals, features for people. And then my previous bandmate, we no longer work together anymore because he wanted to go into doing cinema and film, music for TV and film, which he's doing. That's like so his world and bread and butter, and he's crushing it. And I wanted to continue to tour. So when I tell this story, the formation of Echoes, he's no longer in Echoes anymore, but lots of love for him. So I was 19. I was singing on other people's songs, and he had heard my voice and was like, we should start a project together. And I was like, all right. And so we met, we had like just made all these demos, and just Echoes became a thing. Like, and we just made music together and just we're putting it out on all platforms. And eventually signed a record deal and got to tour together and make 3 records together. And it was super cool. I don't think either of us thought that it would like go as far as it did. We were just 2 kids that were like, I've been in bands, you've been in bands, like, let's do this. And and so we made music together for 9 years before parting ways. And then like I said, I just was like, I want to keep doing this. I don't know what it's going to look like. I kind of had a feeling of what I wanted it to look like. And then I sat in on a session for my friend's band, and then we ended up just writing together every week. And we were like, fuck, we've got an Echoes record. So nice. Yeah, the formation of it, I wish I had more of like a condensed, cooler story, but I don't know. I'm real, and that's how it happened. So
yeah. What was the inspiration for the name?
For Echoes?
Mm-hmm.
So my prior bandmate and I we love Paramore, and there's a lyric from the song Misguided Ghosts, and it says, "And still they echo me. They echo me in circles." And that was where the name came from. And I think it also kind of was like I believe that words are spells and manifestations, and like of the music, the lyrics of what I do is like very, things and themes that echo themselves in my head. I'm kind of an overthinker. I feel like things echo through me. And so that's where that came from. And it kind of like became itself as time went on.
For this new record you're working with, Outlast Records, how'd that relationship come together?
That was through a previous manager that I had worked with. He recommended that I work with them, and then we just made this album on there. Yeah.
Nice. You talked about having a partner writing this record. When I was listening to it earlier, I had the question of like how the song started and the formation, whether it kind of starts piano or guitar and then you build around it, or if it was the orchestration and then you put the songs, because you kind of did this with the Reimagine records. Like you could hear these songs all as like piano ballads, like really stripped down. So is the genesis for songwriting just trying to figure out like the bones low key, or is it the full production and then going from there?
It's always the bones. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I ever got when it first started was you want to make sure your song just stripped down is like solid. And if it makes you feel something within that structure, then you've got a good song. If you have to make the song, better by embellishing it, then you got to go back to the start and really make sure that the song, the heart of it is there. So it always starts with guitar and vocals or piano and vocals, and then the production is built out around that. So the process for this was very free flowing. It was very just like, let's sit down and see, what is going to come to the surface and just write from there, versus in previous ways of writing, it would be, I want to write a song about this, or I want to write a song about this. And I would go into it with the intention, versus this was like a very free flowing, what does my subconscious want to bring to the surface type of process. Yeah.
Nice. Album's called Quiet in Your Service. That's a track on the album. What led to that being the right title for this record?
Yeah. So when I write, I tend to, this new way of writing is I will just kind of write whatever's coming to me. And when I first wrote that line, it was kind of like a subconscious lyric of quiet on the surface. And I didn't know quite what that meant yet. So I had the demo and I would just listen to it over and over. And I finally heard quiet in your service. And that to me, it means you're making yourself small in service of whether it's a relationship or a job or, a situation, whatever it is. In this case, for me, it was a relationship. I was making myself quiet and small in service of this person, in service of this cycle that I was in. And it felt to me like that was the title. Like I always try to let the title like come to me. And I kept thinking, should I name it this or this? And I don't know. Once I figured out that like mumbled subconscious lyric was quiet in your service, all the rest of the songs kind of fell into place of like, oh yeah, this this makes sense. Like this feels like the summary of what this record is.
Yeah. That you could see that theme flowing through the tracks, and it made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think about it. I had that title before all of the tracks were done.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it also kind of helped me understand what the rest of the songs were going to be. Like, would they fit within this one sentence?
Yeah. You said when you decided to carry on this project by yourself, you knew you kind of wanted to go a different direction musically. What were the things driving you differently?
Well, I think it was such a natural thing. Like I said, I sat in on my friend's band, Gold Souls, love them. And they are who I wrote the record with. And it was just like, they were like, come sing on one of our songs and let's just see how that goes. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'll help write this song. And we all were kind of like, whoa, we should do this more. And they were like, why don't you just come over like every week and let's just see what happens. And we're like, okay, like just to kind of like flex the creative muscle of writing together. And I think we wrote Carousel first, and we were kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like we've got a really cool creative language that we're all developing together. And then we would just, literally have like a jam session and record it and go back through and like listen and pick out the parts that felt like, oh, we've got a song here. So it changed the way that I write, because this is the first time that I was just writing with a band and, going to band practice, for lack of better, like that's what it felt like. And so, we didn't really like set out to have a record. We just kind of were like, let's write and see what happens. And I think after having 5 songs, we were like, yo, we have a sound. We should follow this. And it was really fun. And then I had worked with some other songwriter friends of mine who I absolutely adore, Charlie and Becca. And they were like, yeah, we're tapping into the sound of what the record is. And everybody just kind of felt like we were so on the same page together in building this world. And KJ Strock co-produced the record with us. And it's just like, it was such a fun experience. So it all came together very organically, I guess would be my answer there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's a very like beautifully ethereal album, while also being very dark and heavy at moments. Like there's this real great symmetry to like the beauty and airiness of it, mixed with the like, something is wrong under the surface.
Yeah. Thank you. That was the goal. It was a very healing record for me to create. It was like, let's just take a deep dive into whatever is trying to come to the surface subconsciously. We're not like sitting down and being like, we're going to write this. It's like, what are you like, let's just flow. And whatever comes out through the flow is where we're going to follow the creative muse. And so it was just a really cool experience, cool thing for me to experience as a writer.
Yeah. The album cover is your portrait. What was the decision to go with that as the cover?
I just wanted it to feel like you are reading my diary. And when you see that it's just me on the cover, that it feels very like a very personal record. I kind of look asleep. I kind of feel like it was I want this record to be like something you can feel to, lie down and feel to. I guess I didn't have like too much of a deeper meaning behind it. Sorry to disappoint people, other than I just wanted you to see it and be like, okay, I'm going to feel to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Album's out January 17th. What's your plans for next year and kind of how you're approaching this release and the future of touring?
Yeah, I'm in the process of wanting to play some shows next year and booking some stuff with my team. We're in the process of putting together an album release show in January in Los Angeles. So I'll have more details about that soon. And I really want this record to be played live. That's kind of that was the intention too of this record when we were making it. We're like, okay, this feels like something that needs to encapsulate this energy in a live setting. And so that's definitely something that I want to do. This record is meant to be played live.
Yeah. There are certain bands and certain albums where like you hear them and like, if you experience those songs live, they take on this new, I don't know, meaning and life. And like it's like the first time I saw Sigur Rós live, it's like, oh fuck man, it like crushes you, right? Like,
I saw them and I like, yeah, I cry at everything that I love.
Yeah.
I remember crying and being like, holy fuck. And I saw them at a huge festival outdoors, and it was like a religious experience. So yes, it can really change the way that you digest the meaning of a song. And as a performer, I feel like being able to perform it live, like you can add different little embellishments on certain things that maybe aren't in the recording. And it's a really, really special thing. So I love performing. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
I'm underneath the surface when you come, quiet down my demons when I'm lost. Don't know what you're thinking, give it up, know that I'll come.
Yeah, I've got the exclusive blood red vinyl of Quiet in Your Service available for pre-order now, and I'm super excited for that to be able to be in the physical form. And I love just being able to like hold it, you know. And so I'm happy that that is available. So if you want that on vinyl, you can order it now.
Yeah. I've been listening to the record on my phone because that's how I have it. And it's great. But I was like, I had it on in the car while running errands, and there's something about like listening to music in the car for me that's also like a spiritual experience where it's just like you crank it up and it worked there, and you're just like, okay, yeah.
That makes me so happy because I say that I want my music to be played while you're on a drive or while you're lying on the floor staring at the ceiling. Because that's how I like to listen to music. It's either I'm staring at the ceiling thinking, or I'm on a long drive. So that's good input. I'm glad that it good for the car.
Good for the car.